absolutely. So I want your opinion on this. Since there is no limitation on media ownership, do you think Murdoch has too much power?
I think the idea of having one person have too much, ownership that is so grand and all-encompassing as Mr. Murdoch has been shown time and time again in the past to work against the best interests of a thriving democracy. Because what he is able to do is, people tend to live in a bubble. You guys live in a bubble. You live in a bubble of young broadcasters. And you tend to think that everybody is comfortable talking in front of a camera or is interested in TV. And we all choose our bubbles. Right. Rupert Murdoch lives in a bubble of people that reinforce his own beliefs. That Rupert Murdoch is good and what's good for Fox Broadcasting is good. And he tends to make that be the voice of all his enterprises. Well, for democracy to work, the thing that makes democracy work is lots of different voices. It's the crowdsourcing of ideas. It's the wisdom of large groups. We don't always get every choice right all the time, each time we decide. But by having this diversity of opinions that's informed by a diversity of experiences and skills and abilities and types of intelligence, we tend to have much better outcomes. And when the voice becomes homogenized and synchronized and organized the way it does with Rupert Murdoch's enterprise, I think it hurts our ability to make wise decisions.
Right.
Now, transitioning to a different topic, my primary interest is in internet and social media. So I thought, with broadcast media, how do you think the internet has changed broadcast media?
The internet has clearly changed it, and nobody knows exactly how yet. For instance, once upon a time, people my age, when they were in their 20s and 30s, everybody came home at the end of the day and we all would watch either the 6 o'clock or the 11 o'clock news. And back then there were only 3 channels. It's one of the reasons Evening Magazine was popular, was because there's only 3 channels to choose from. And basically everybody, to some degree, had a somewhat similar experience of learning about their community or learning about the day's events. And we'd start from there in our discussion. But now, a much smaller percentage of people watch the 6 or the 11 o'clock news. A smaller number of people watch any given community-based show, because you have 500 channels to choose from on your TV cable box, and you have a bazillion channels to choose from on the internet, and you can watch Vimeo or YouTube or links or read or just stay focused in some little niche. So it's hugely changed the pattern of people's hunting for information and consuming information. And I don't think anybody quite has a handle on what it's all going to mean yet, because they haven't finished sorting out how they're going to distribute it. There's a Netflix is in the midst of changing what kind of movies they have access to, and Hulu is deciding what their business model is going to be, and YouTube is beginning to be more commercial, and there's people think that to have their business prosper they need a YouTube channel. So it's all changing, and it's all changing quickly, and we're all inside it, and it's very difficult for us to step outside, as you will have one day the ability to do with history and distance, and figure out, oh, you know what was going on back then? So my answer is, I don't know.
Yeah, I think that with the internet nowadays, you no longer have to go searching for things. If you're already on a social network, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, they come to you.
The thing that we should do in response to this, however, is one of the things they don't teach you typically in your school experience is epistemology. Anybody know what epistemology is?
No clue.
Basically, it's how do you come to believe that what you think is true is in fact true? What are reliable sources of information or opinion or people telling you what transpired that day that are reliable? You've all had the experience of getting emails or social media things that you found out later, oh God, what a bunch of baloney. You've probably received the thing where it said they're going to start taxing all emails at 5 cents. Or if you email this out, sooner or later Bill Gates will give you a nickel for every email that receives this eventually. And it turns out to be, well, one of the things that they should teach in schools is a more systematic approach to figuring out whether or not something is true. For instance, do you know about Snopes.com?
Yep.
Right? Oh, tell me about Snopes.com.
Well, when I get chain emails or forwards, Snopes.com, they recommend visiting that to check if it's a valid, and it's probably posted there if it's circulated a lot.
Tell me one thing you found out that you went to Snopes.com and found out baloney.
I think it was if you send this to 10 people, a river will magically appear across your computer screen. False.
Yes. So there's other things in the world of politics, for instance. There are fact-checking websites that look at political speech and political claims, like PolitiFact.com, which is run by a nonpartisan organization out of Florida, and FactCheck.com, or both of these could be .org, that's run by out of the University of Pennsylvania. And these are very reliable, nonpartisan organizations that check on political speech. There are probably a lot more out there that I'm not aware of, but that's one of the things that we should respond to this change in our information environment by changing the way we give tools to students so that they can sort out what is true, what is fact, what's opinion, and what's just baloney.
Especially in this day and age, you don't really know who is behind that message and if they're a real person.
Right. Well, for instance, another thing to use to check out whether or not you should believe it is a thing called SourceWatch. If you go to SourceWatch, sometimes you read about some nonprofit organization, consumer choice is better for children, and then you find out, that the people that donate all the money to consumer choice is better for children is Burger King. So these are all things that are good that we should be teaching kids about with more frequency.
So how old were you when you started to actually get into broadcasting? How old?
Dylan, that's a good question because I started late in life. I went up to New York thinking I was going to be a serious Shakespearean actor, and I didn't fully appreciate that job was already taken. And I was doing theater and then realized that if you want to make a living in theater, you're going to have to, most people are going to have to learn to live on ramen noodles. So I began to do a little bit of television just to help make ends meet, like a soap opera here and a commercial there, and then ended up being invited to do a magazine type show. And hadn't really thought about it, because I thought that to do TV, you sort of had to look like a male model.
Oh yeah, and going to the University of Tennessee, did you really think you'd do broadcasting going to the University of Tennessee?
No, to be honest with you, I was such a screw up in high school. I needed to choose a college that would take me on SATs and not on my high school grades, because I didn't apply myself the way I should have.
So you didn't get that. So you didn't get good high school grades.
No. I'm ashamed to say, if I were allowed the privilege of going back in life and correcting some of my mistakes, That would be on my
Yeah,
short
and
list.
how did you on SATs?
Oh, I did well on SATs.
And that's why you went to University of Tennessee.
And I walked into the guidance office and said, give me the catalog for a school that'll let you in on your SATs. And, hey, yeah, give me one that doesn't have a big essay part that you have to do. So the guidance counselor gave me that. I looked at it and said, oh, perfect. And I got in. But it ended up being great because they developed a great theater department.
Oh, so did you like University of Tennessee? Was it a cool school to go to? University of Tennessee.
Well, I liked it a lot. I had a very good experience, and I was in the psychology department and pursued graduate school in neurophysiology, and they were really smart people doing some interesting work. But the thing I really liked was theater, and they started a good theater department, and I got involved in that.
Yeah,
Well, I want to touch on a point that you made earlier. You were, of course, talking about things that are false that people see and hear today and how to decipher between true and false things. And that kind of relates to the media. I know on a lot of news stations you have shows that are news and shows that are opinions. But on some stations, one of them notably would be Fox News, sometimes it's hard to tell which shows are news and which are opinions, and on the news shows, they state their opinions. Do you think that there should be a line drawn between those two things, and that you should have to say, we are a news show, we only report the news, or we are an opinion show, and we only say our opinions on things? Or is it okay for people to put their opinions when they're reporting the news?
I'm very impressed by this question. And I think the answer is sort of. Because there are some news organizations that take the sort of old school approach to news being straight down the middle very seriously. And they take fact-checking and dual sourcing their stories very seriously. And those are really hugely important sources of news in our world. It does expose itself, though, even trying to do that, to some downside. For instance, if you're talking about, take the issue of global warming. The jury is in, scientifically, that there is what they call global warming or climate change that is largely produced by the activities of man, principally burning fossil fuel.
Right.
That science is done. But if you're going, there's a lot of vested interest out there that really don't want that to be the facts, and they don't want people to act on those facts, and so they help start organizations that are largely funded by people like the Koch brothers that have interest in fossil fuels and they make a lot of money from it, that put out pseudo nonprofit organizations that say the facts about climate change and energy use. If you're a straight down the middle news organization and you believe that what you need to do is represent both sides equally, well, a side that is saying something that is science-based versus a side that is presenting a scientifically discredited theory is your responsibility as a straight down the center news operation to present them both equally, or should, if you're really being straight down the middle, shouldn't you say, this is science and these people, they get paid by people that produce coal?
Right.
And you're sort of dismissing them. When it comes to things like intelligent, when people want to teach intelligent design or creationism in schools, the science is in on that. That may be a wonderful religious view and one that people may want to imbue their children with, but the science is done on that. Mm-hmm. So should somebody like CNN or CBS equally represent, well, here's people that believe the Earth is 13 billion years old, and here are the Earth is 6 billion years old, and here's people that believe that the Earth is 10,000 years old, and present them equally. Well, the answer to that is probably is almost certainly no, you shouldn't. But then that becomes perceived by other people as something that's kind of opinion-based, because there are some things that none of us can answer with certainty, like what happens after you die.